Listen-only mode.
Hello. Welcome to Barnard Career Development's webinar series on career development basics. Welcome to everybody who was able to, who registered and is able to join us live. Couple of housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, just my voice, and as well as a visual record of the slides. You are all muted, but you can type in any questions as we go along, and I will read those out loud before answering them. You'll ask questions using your GoToWebinar dashboard and use the question function. That seems to work better than the chat function in terms of me being able to see what you've written. I'll stop at a couple key points along the way to answer your questions, and also at the end take any remaining questions. And let's test that function now. Is say hello. That way I'll know you can hear me and can see the opening screen of my PowerPoint, which lets me know we're good to go. Excellent. I'm seeing some hellos, so that lets me know that we have all systems go. So our first session is titled Deciding What's Next, Exploring Your Career Options. Some of you will only be here for this session, and others of you I hope will join us for some of the other sessions coming up. As I said, I'm Christine Valenza-Shin. I'm class of '84, and I'm the alumni counselor here at Barnard Career Development. So let's get started. The career exploration process there's 3 steps to it, at least the way I tend to approach it. The first step is knowing yourself, and I think about this as the opening up possibilities option. This is where you dare to dream, you throw open the doors, consider all sorts of options. We'll talk about how to do that. The next phase is to research the workforce and careers, and this is making your ideas real. So this is where we go from the dreaming, the brainstorming, the thinking of everything to, okay, how would this actually work? What are the nuts and bolts? And finally, you need to decide on your goals and focus. Having done this exploration, you want to choose what's next. So let's jump in. We're first going to look at knowing yourself and opening up possibilities. The first question you want to ask yourself is, am I looking for a career shift or a complete career change? I'm assuming that if you've signed up for this webinar that you are at least contemplating some sort of change. Could just be a job change, could be a change within your organization, could be a shift within your career or your field, or you are ready to think about a complete turnaround. So the place to start to decide this, how big a change are you anticipating, is to reflect on current and past jobs. What aspects and tasks do you enjoy the most? What aspects and tasks do you enjoy the least? What are you best at? What are you worst at? And this is always a great question. What would you add or take away from your current job to make it better? Another important step here is to talk with colleagues and managers as appropriate. You want to have a general discussion about where they see the field going, where will opportunities be in the future, And what would be possible next career steps for you? I think sometimes because we tend to keep this type of questioning to ourselves, and I think you can definitely, you have to think strategically and diplomatically about it, but I think that there's a good opportunity here to talk to colleagues. It could be on your team, it could be in a different division, but I think a general conversation about what's going on in the world, you may be making some assumptions about your company, about your field that may or may not be correct, and so that can be really helpful. And so part of what you're looking at is a shift within the field feasible? Is that something that would be an easier step to take or a preliminary step to take before moving towards a complete change? That can be a good possibility. After this initial assessment, thinking to yourself, talking to others, you decide that you do want to make a change. What is it you want to make a change to? And there's a number of ways to take a look at this. There's exploratory questions, which you can do in writing. You can discuss with a friend or family member. You can meet with a career counselor, such as myself. And then there's career assessments. And when we do career assessments, we look at 4 possibilities, 4 factors: your interests, your personality type, your skills, and your values. Those 4 things together give you, it's a process to go through to identify what's important to you, what's essential about you, and it can be a really helpful way to take a look. So let's delve into that a little bit more. We'll start with the exploratory questions, and then I'll give you an overview and some examples from some assessments. I'm just going to scroll down quickly, see if I have any questions besides all of the lovely hellos. Excellent. Okay. Oops. Hello. There we go. Some exploratory questions. One of my favorites. Often ask this when I first meet with people. Thinking back to your childhood or adolescence, what's the first thing you remember wanting to be? Why do you think it appealed to you? Let's go ahead and answer just the first part of that. We'll keep it short. Thinking back to your childhood or adolescence, what's the first thing you remember wanting to be? Let's take a little look. You can just use the question section to fill that in. The reason I ask this question is it's a really interesting starting point, and there often is a connection between what we wanted to be when we were very young and what we still want to be. It might not be direct. We might have given up on the ballet dancer plan or the astronaut plan, but often the qualities of that job, that type of occupation come through. Let's see. Someone wanted to be a doctor. Someone wanted to work in an office as a manager. Okay, those are 2 interesting possibilities. And then again, if I was speaking to you individually, the follow-up question would be, why do you think that appealed to you? And then what happened to that? Sometimes people are what they wanted to be when they were first very small child, and other times they're a variation of it. Sometimes they've done a complete turnaround. Costume designer, actress, doctor like my dad. Excellent. Okay, a couple other exploratory questions to think about. In your volunteer and leadership experiences, what roles do you gravitate toward and enjoy? And what careers have others suggested for you? And what do you think about those suggestions? These are just some sample questions. We actually, our counseling team here, put these together a couple of summers during a professional development session. Just asked each other, what questions do we like to ask to elicit this kind of information from the students and alumni we work with? A few more examples. What occupations, careers have you encountered in fiction or popular culture that draw you in? And what's your sense of the image versus the reality of those jobs? Here's another short one we can answer here. What would be a single descriptor of your most ideal job? Take a second, think about that. Type in your answer in the question section. Innovation. Creative. Someone who's needed. TV interviewer. Interesting. Communication. And a final example. Is there a job or career you're drawn to or considering, but some part of you says no? What are your reservations? Back to our 1-word descriptors. Problem solver. Nice. Again, I like all these questions. I do like that middle one because it's a single descriptor. You kind of get a gut response, and that can also be very telling. A couple more responses from you all. Problem solver, money. Excellent. Okay. So a couple of words of caution about these exploratory questions. You need to manage your negative thoughts. This is truer for some of you than others, but almost all of us have some sort of blockage or negativity from time to time. You want to listen for yourself saying, but I can't do that, and ask back, why not? I literally do this. This is one of the things I do in the counseling session is sometimes people can't even get the sentence out without adding, but I can't do that. And so my question is, why not? It's not always in a challenging way. It's really just curiosity. What's the obstacle in your way? And maybe it's true, maybe it's real, maybe it's not. What we want to try to do is postpone the negative thoughts and practical considerations for now, because remember, we're in the throwing the door open phase. We're dreaming big, we're allowing out all our thoughts, we're brainstorming, whatever image sounds good to you, to get to that sort of positive possibilities place. You want to give yourself permission to consider all options, at least in your head, no matter how out there they may feel. And you'll get to the practical, or we'll get to the practical evaluation of options later. Don't worry. We'll always go back to the practical, but right now you don't want to inhibit yourself with the practical. I had a really lovely session a couple weeks ago with an alumna from the, I forget what class, but she's about 10 years out, and she's had a steady career in digital media. But she's not happy. She made a job shift about a year ago, and she's still not happy overall. And she brought in a lovely dream list that just ranged from everything from starting her own card business, greeting cards business, to what was her other possibility? To traveling for a year, to teaching craft classes. She just had all sorts of things on that list, and we just went through it and just kind of fleshed it out and talked about all the possibilities just to kind of tap into that excitement. And then next time I see her, we'll talk more about the practical. And at the end of this exploratory question phase, again, whether you've done it in writing or with a friend or with myself, you want to try and draw some conclusions. Does a theme or a pattern emerge? So when you look from your childhood dream to your volunteer experience to what you respond to in fiction, is there a theme there? Is there a continuity there that can give us some clues as to where your true passion lies? Or not even true passion, I think that can get overblown in talking about careers, but where's the energy coming from? What really draws you? What really motivates you? So that's sort of a more open-ended approach, and we'll do sort of a mini version of that when I almost always do a short version of that when first I meet with people, just to check in and see where their head's at. Another way of approaching this question of what do I really want to be doing, or what do I want to be doing now or next, is to use career assessments. So these are formal instruments. Sometimes it's an online survey, sometimes it's an actual checklist, etc. And as I said, we look at 4 aspects. There's 4 different kinds of career assessments. There's personality. The one we use here in the office is Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or MBTI, very popular these days. We'll talk a little more about that in a moment. Interests. And the assessment we use here in the office for this is the Strong Interest Inventory. Skills. There are various online sites. I'll mention several of them. And there's an organization, a physical place called Johnson O'Connor that we'll talk about briefly. And finally, values. And here again, there's various checklists and sorts on paper and online. So let's take a look at these a little more closely, and that way you can see if you might be interested in taking any of these. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, MBTI, is used in a variety of settings, not just career development and career advising. It can be used in career advising, education, leadership development. Frequently, a company or organization could do a Myers-Briggs typing and workshop, or work with individuals. Team building, right? There are many unofficial versions of Myers-Briggs out on the internet. Some of you have probably taken them. The main thing, they tend to be a little shorter, and what they What you don't get when you take the online version is a trained practitioner who's been certified in how it actually works and how to interpret it. And then secondly, when we offer it here through Barnard Career Development, what gets generated is called the career report. And the career report gives you your personality type based on your answers, but also then looks at that personality type and how that influences how you approach your job search, etc., and also generates a list of fields and specific occupations that could be of interest. Okay. It's available through Barnard Career Development. You'll do a pre-assessment appointment with the counselor, which is most times going to be me. That can be in person, phone, or Skype. It is the only thing we charge for our alumni for. There's a $15 fee because that's how much it costs for us to get it from CPP, the organization that owns and analyzes and updates the exam. It's taken online. Takes about 15 to 25 minutes series of questions, depending on how fast a test taker you are. And then once you've taken it online, you have a follow-up appointment to go over the results. And again, that would be me. And again, that can be in person, over the phone, or Skype. Right. The strong interest inventory, all right, is also offered through us. The results are used primarily for career advising. All right, this is personality cuts across lots of things. Career interests are more directive. It's again available through Barnard Career Development. Same thing, we have a short pre-assessment appointment. This does not have to be separate. If you're interested in doing both of the assessments, we would do one short pre-assessment appointment with myself. Again, there's a $15 fee and taken online, and again, 15 to 25 minute long series of questions. Sometimes Strong takes a little longer. Myers-Briggs gives you a series of choices. Strong asks you to rank things along a 5-point continuum. So, right. And then there's a follow-up appointment to go over the results. I generally try and do this. If you do Myers-Briggs and Strong together, we try and get through them in the hour, but actually the more I do it, the more I think there really should be 2 follow-up sessions. I think you get more out of it if we have enough time to go over the results, talk about the implications, and then do the second one later. I do recommend, if possible, to take the Myers-Briggs and Strong together because it leads the fullest picture. You're looking both at your interests and your personality, and they tend to, the results, there often are overlapping results. They're never identical results, so they tap into different things and therefore give you a richer basis to start. I see a good question. How much do MBTI results change over your career? If I've done one in the past 5 years, how much will results shift? Great question. In theory, according to Myers-Briggs and according to the Jungian theory that it's based on, it should not change over time. Your personality is your personality. The reality is that the way in which you take the test, the way in which you answer the inventory can shift. So if you've got if you took the Myers-Briggs through us or through another, through an accredited practitioner and have the official career report, you don't need to retake it. You could just bring that in and we could talk it through. But if you've just taken it online and don't have the actual report from when you took it, the career report from when you took it, it probably would be helpful to retake it. So one thing you could do in that case is take the Strong first if you're interested, and then if you feel like the Myers-Briggs, or if you and I together decide the Myers-Briggs could give us more to the picture, we could do that separately. Great. Okay, so then we want to look at skills and aptitude assessments. The key here is what's called motivated skills, which is not just what you are good at, but, or and, it's what you enjoy doing. The reason I emphasize this so much is that it's a real common theme in my work with alumni. I hear this story from all ages, all stages, which is, I was really good at this. I got a job doing this. Everyone tells me I'm really good at this, so I've kept doing it. I don't really like it that much. And that's important to know. Now, again, doesn't mean you have to ditch it. You may have to do a gradual transition away, but that actually gets to one of those questions I asked early on, if you could add something or take away something. You know, the things that we're both good at and we really like doing, it'd be great if more of our job could be spent doing that. And it would be lovely as well to have less of our job be about doing the things that we might be good at, but we just don't enjoy as much. So that's the question you want to ask yourself with skills is, not only what are you good at, what do you enjoy doing? there's no, skills assessments are not, there's not a comparable one to the Myers-Briggs and the Strong where it's an assessed and verified and psychometrically measured and revised, etc. They're a little bit less formal. Most of them are online sites, and it's basically you self-identify your skills. There are some really interesting ones that I'm going to recommend. The Stewart Cooper Coons Motivated Skills Test. Stewart Cooper Coons is an executive search firm, but they have a really nice motivated skills test. It takes a little bit of time. It's free. And I don't think this is one where you have to log in with your name. I think you can just click and start it. And basically it goes through, I want to say between 30 and 50 skills, and asks you to rate how much you like each one. And then it takes you back through the same group of skills and asks you to say how much you like it. So first you do how good are you? And then how much you enjoy it. And then what they generate at the end, which you can download and print, is a chart basically that shows what you're good at and like, what you're good at but don't like, what you're not good at and don't like, and what you're not good at but like. So, which is kind of a confusing way to present it, but it's actually really helpful. And again, it allows you, it sort of lets you see that sweet spot, like where it gives you that list of things that you both are good at and really enjoy. And it just sort of stimulates that thinking of, helps you think a little more systematically what you're looking for, what you're looking to get away from. There's at careeronestop.com, there's a skills profiler. This is a little bit, again, these lists, they take a little while to get through, but this one is, I'm trying to picture how the report comes out. I think it's just got a slightly different format, sort of the same concept, and I'm not sure if it generates the same type of printable report. And then there's a My Skills, My Future Transferable Skills Finder. This one was interesting. I just rechecked this morning. You put in a job that you have or used to have, and then it tells you which of those skills are transferable and what other jobs it might be good for. Now, a word of caution. I used to be a teacher. When I put in teacher, really all it gave me was variations on being a teacher. So I didn't find that helpful. I personally think there are a ton of transferable skills from teaching that could go to all sorts of fields, but this particular finder seemed a little, I put in something a little bit more generic, which is something I also used to do, which is as a program coordinator. That generated some interesting possibilities, probably because that's a little bit more generic, but it listed some different occupations, some different titles, some of which were familiar to me, some of which were like, hadn't thought about that. So don't just do one thing and stop. If you've got a couple of different things you've done in the past or that you currently do, a couple different ways of describing what you currently do, try it out. Okay, so these can all be helpful to look at skills. I wanted to mention Johnson O'Connor. This is a physical place. I believe they have offices both in New York and New Jersey, and they might have offices around the country. This is a quite extensive hands-on skills testing. They literally walk you through a bunch of skills. They give you the materials. They test you. It's a 7 to 10 hour total commitment. You don't do that all at once, but it's, I think, 2 to 3 sessions. And it's expensive. There's a $675 to $750 fee. It's not for everyone. I've encountered a couple alumni who've taken it over the years. One was a young woman who really had, I'd say, sort of very low self-knowledge, was really at sea in terms of what she was good at, and her parents paid for her to do it. And then I've been working with an alumna, older, more experienced, who's shifting in her career, and she paid for it herself and found it pretty helpful. It just helps clarify. Again, it's a much bigger time and money commitment, so it's not for everyone, but it's out there, something to take a look at. Our fourth component is values assessments. Right, and this is values assessments are about helping you clarify what's most and least important to you. And so this can be work-related values such as environment, structure, and motivation. It could be lifestyle-related values such as commute and flexibility in hours. This is definitely something that changes over time. It can change year to year. It can change life stage to life stage. So it can be helpful to do some of these checklists and sorts. I'm recommending a couple of online ones, sort of different, similar concepts, but different ways of doing it. myplan.com values assessment. It's free. And this is actually sort of an online version of an old-fashioned card sort. You can still get these card sorts where they give you like 30 cards with different values on them, and you have to sort them into different categories. This makes you do it online. One of the reasons I like this one, it's interesting, you have to put all 20 or 30 digital cards into an equal number of slots. So you have to put, you can only put 4 in your most important, and you can only put 4 in your least important. So what it forces you to do, it really forces you to sort of move things around. And so you come upon something and you say, oh yeah, that's super important to me. But then you fill up your 4 slots and a 5th one comes up and you're like, oh, that's super important to me too. And then you're like, well, there's no space left in the super important slot. So what am I going to move out? So it really helps sift through and sort of make some of those value judgments, really makes you think about what's important. The careerperfect.com insight work values, similar approach. They ask similar questions, but they do it, it looks more like a typical survey where you have to rank each one. And in both cases, again, they print out, they give you results. They don't give you jobs to look for. It's not like Myers-Briggs and Strong that both generate a list of fields and jobs that might be of interest, but they do give you some, some general conclusions about what's most important to you. And there's another resource that I encountered when I was doing some training data at NYU for career counseling called Career Anchors. It comes from a couple of professors at the Harvard Business School. It's particularly helpful for career changers if you've been at something for a while and you're really ready to make a change, make a shift to something pretty different. It's a paperback book. I haven't encountered it in physical bookstores. I don't think it's that common, but it's definitely, I double checked again this morning. It's definitely still available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, just to mention a couple. It's sort of a whole way of thinking about career anchors, about what anchors your career, about what anchors your values, what's important to you. And they have a couple of paper surveys in there. There's an online version too, but it's very expensive. It's like in the $40, $50 range as opposed to some of these other things. The book is only, I think it's $19. And we did these paper ones when I did the training. It reminded me a little of those old Cosmo quizzes where you ask the question, you give points to things, and then at the end it says, 5 through 10 points, you're this, 10 through 15 points, you're this. So it's an interesting methodology, and it really can help clarify. It kind of approaches values slightly different from some of these other assessments. So that could be a helpful resource. Okay. All right, so let's just to bring you into this, you've been listening for a few minutes to me ramble on. Let's do a couple samples here. So I'm going to launch a poll. So take a look at your little sites. Okay. So fill this out. You want to tell me which of these 3 values is most important to you. Challenging daily responsibilities, enjoyable daily responsibilities, predictable daily responsibilities. 75% of you voted. 20% challenging daily responsibilities are most important to you. 80% enjoyable daily responsibilities, and 0 predictable daily responsibilities. Okay, so that tells me this is a group of people who are in fact looking for change, looking for variety. So, okay, let me close that one. All right, and then let's do another one. We're going to do 3 of these. So here's the second one. Let me launch this. Okay, so again, 3 new values: limited or no stress, fast-paced environment, independence, aka limited supervision. Okay, so 80% of you voted, and we have 71% of you favoring independence or limited supervision, 18% limited or no stress, 12% fast-paced environment. Now, none of this is to pass judgment on any of this. I'm just, again, everybody's answer is their own. You need to be honest here, and it's really helpful to know. So for those of you who, even though the percentage in this small group is 12% valuing the fast-paced environment, it's important to know about yourself if that's the most important thing to you. And I see quite a few people who've been in very stressful roles or very stressful occupations who, for them, absolutely the most important is to reduce that stress. But overall, I would say, there are certain trends among Barnard women, and independence and limited supervision doesn't surprise me, I would say, that so many of you favored that. So let's close that one, and we'll do one more. Okay, wait, sorry. Doop. So, okay, last one. Let me launch it. Which of these is most important? Security against layoffs and recessions, easy commute, high salary. Yeah, this one's a little more even so far. All right, we've got 85% of you voted. So we have 47% high salary, and a tie at the moment between 28% easy commute and 28% security against layoffs and recessions. Again, this is going to be a very personal answer in terms of could be your life stage, could be your circumstances, who's dependent on you, how bad your commute has been, what your experience has been with layoffs and the recent recession and slow recovery. So again, it's, you're ranking things against each other. You're not always going to get that choice, but it's a helpful exercise to help you clarify what's important and what you're looking for in your next opportunity. All right, I'm going to close that up. Thanks for participating. Okay. All right, so that's the end of this first section I was talking about, exploring yourself. We looked at two key ways. One was sort of more open-ended, these exploratory questions, and then the various assessments, some that you can do on your own online and some that you do in a formal process through our office, if you're interested, can be a little bit more directed, all leading towards the same goal, which is to generate some possibilities, some new ideas for you, things that might be a better fit for you, be more enjoyable, and that's the process we want to go through. Let me check quick if there's any questions. You got a comment. The last one was hardest. I want all three. Absolutely, and hopefully you can find all three, all right? But sometimes you do have to make a choice. You have a couple job offers in front of you, and one has two things that you want, and the other has two different things that you want, and you have to make that choice, and that's where things get tricky. Also, what makes my job interesting, because everyone's circumstance is different. All right, so now we're going to shift gears a little bit, and now we're going to enter that making it real phase, which you might not be psychologically ready for. You might want to stick in the dreaming phase, that's fine. But basically, I'm going to give you a bunch of resources so that when you are ready to make it real and start thinking about this in more practical, logistical terms, that you'll be ready to do that. So we're going to look at making it real. We're going to look at ONET and other job information sites. We're going to look at using job listing sites and LinkedIn for research. I'm going to give you some online salary finders because that's a really big factor in considering making a move. And we're going to talk a little bit about informational interviews, talking to actual people doing actual things to gather some inside information. Okay. Oops. Okay. Sorry. So job career information sites. There is an excellent resource called ONET Online. And I forgot to mention at the beginning, I will be sending all of you tomorrow a copy of I'll either attach a copy of the PowerPoint or just send you the link to it. So you will definitely have a copy of this by tomorrow. And all of these links should be live. I double checked them yesterday. So ONET Online, it's run by the US Department of Labor. It's a compendium of all job titles in the United States. It's not completely up to the minute. There's so many new job titles out there that they can't keep up with everything, but it's pretty good. They give you a comprehensive profile of each title, and particularly helpful for those of you who are in this exploring phase, there's a list for most of them. There's a list of related occupations that you can then click on in turn. And that's sometimes where you can get get some interesting results. This is where you tend to hit some of the titles you might not have thought of before. We've all heard of librarians and architects and program managers and doctors and lawyers. Some of the less well-known titles that we might not have thought about can come up when you hit the related occupations list. Okay, so that's a really excellent resource. There's lots of different ways to use ONET, so I encourage you to poke around. It's, as with many online sites, you can sort of go down the rabbit hole and lose a lot of time, but that's not necessarily a bad thing when you're career exploring. And one of the things I'll sometimes say to people is just, set a timer for 20 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever's good, and just let yourself explore and kind of notice what's drawing your attention and what's making you click away really quickly. All right, that's helpful information. Also from the U.S. Department of Labor is the Occupational Outlook Handbook, OOH. Again, it's a U.S. Department of Labor site, and this is has more information and statistics on job and career prospects. So this has a lot of stats about what's growing. ONET they have a little symbol system. When you look at things, they have a little sun for bright prospects, I think they call it. So, you can sort of make a quick assessment on whether a job title is a growing field or it's stagnating or declining. Occupational Outlook Handbook will give you more information about that. So if you're looking at something, if you're hearing negatives from other people, this is a great thing to check the actual stats on and see how true it is that something, maybe something's growing that you don't know. And then there's, in New York, we've got careerzone.newyork.gov. This is a New York state government site with career and industry information and tools. I believe most states have this, so whatever state you're living in, certainly you can look at New York's. It's got a lot of general information as well as New York specific information, but a lot of them, Minnesota's, for whatever reason, I don't know why I ended up looking at Minnesota's, they have a lot of great material there. So most states have career information. So if you just either go to your state government website or just type in, Iowa careers or whatever, you might find something that's a little more specific. Okay. I have a comment. Internet going in and out. Connection restored. Oh, okay, great. So yeah, that's, if you're having technical problems, again, please be assured that you will get a copy of the PowerPoint, and then I also archive the recording, which they're already there actually from past series, and I'm just going to update each Thursday. I'm going to add the new one. So I know some of you had told me ahead of time you had to leave halfway. Now, another great source for research, once you've looked at these general sources, is, these sort of objective sites, I guess you would say, is to actually look at job listing sites as a research tool. So taking some of these job titles that you found in ONET, or just some job titles that you have in mind, you would look for them on a job search site. You want to see, again, we're making this real. We're trying to see what's actually available and how is it being described. So when you look at those job descriptions, are they interesting and appealing to you? Do they seem like a good match for your skills and transferable skills? ONET will give that to you in a general sense, and then these job sites will be more specific to the company, to the industry, to the area you're looking in. We'll talk more about job sites when we do our job search webinar, but Indeed.com is, at the moment, seems to be the most popular general site for both people, job seekers and job posters. It just seems to be the go-to place. It pulls from a lot of different sources, and so if you're not familiar, check in. Most job sites work, they have you create a profile with some basic information and what types of things you're looking for, and then that allows them to filter jobs geographically and by title, etc. And at most places you can just poke around, and then when you come back, if you come back, they'll have filtered some new things for you. You can also sign up for jobs to be sent to you via a daily email. It usually arrives in the morning. If you're in exploratory phase, you may not be ready for that yet. That might stress you out to start seeing all these opportunities out there. But if it doesn't stress you out, if it doesn't interfere with this exploring process, then go ahead and do that. There are a lot of other additional and niche sites, and I linked you to our virtual library at barnard.edu /career development CD. So there's other sites and possibilities there. Okay. LinkedIn for job research. All right, this is, I've been sort of talking about this more and more in my individual sessions with alumni. We're going to be talking about LinkedIn several other times in this webinar series, and I'll give you more detailed information about how to use some of these things. But it can be really helpful to browse through LinkedIn and look at people's profiles to do some job research, to see what's out there, see what people are doing. There's many ways of browsing. One way is to use the advanced search function and enter a keyword, and then peruse the profiles that come up. And what you want to be looking at when you're in this career exploration mode is you're looking at people's work histories and what their paths are to their current position. It's helpful to know there might be a very clear path, or you might see that, for instance, people who work in fundraising and development come from all different kinds of paths. Maybe not. So again, it's not definitive, but it's a sort of browsing way to help you uncover some different information. And then LinkedIn, as with many other social media and just websites in general, is now, they keep adding more and more information. So for instance, if you, let's say you find a Barnard alumna who is working for moveon.org, which you've always been fascinated by. So now you can click on moveon.org within LinkedIn, and it gives you a lot of information about that company and organization and how it works. And then of course you could also search moveon.org on your own by Googling, but LinkedIn, all of these sites actually are trying to be a one-stop shopping place. So they keep adding more and more features, and that from your perspective as a career explorer is really helpful to have that information. Okay. Online salary finders. Glassdoor.com is an excellent site that we will be coming back to in our series. It's sort of a crowd sharing, crowdsourcing, I guess crowd sharing site where basically people are surveyed or voluntarily come and share information, not just about salary, but interview questions and just company information in general. What's it like to work for this company or organization? But they do have salary information that can be helpful. It's free for the most. So with the way Glassdoor works, you need to register with a name and an email, and they give you access to a certain amount of information. And then again, as is the case with many of these sites, they offer advanced features if you are willing to pay for it. And you know, my only recommendation there is to, if you use it a few times, they'll often send you an offer for a free month. And that's actually a great thing to take advantage of. Try the advanced features for a free month. The way that works, as you may be aware, they'll usually take your credit card information. So just make sure that you put a note in your calendar to cancel that information, because then what happens is after the 30 days, they'll automatically start charging you. But it's not a bad way to explore some things. So just, you know, be aware of that. Glassdoor.com, there are many free features. Salary.com, Jobstar.org, these all have salary information in a variety of formats. And you want to definitely look at more than one. And then for those of you who are in the nonprofit world or are considering moving into the nonprofit world, there's an excellent organization called Professionals for Nonprofits. They're now calling themselves PNP Staffing Group. They have salary reports. You have to, when you hit this link, you fill out a quick form and they email it to you. It's a great report. They have one for New York, they have one for Washington, Philadelphia, and I believe they're continuing to add it. It only comes out once a year, but they do a very extensive survey of people in the nonprofit world, and I really like the way they organize the information. They give you salary information by operating budget for the particular organization, and they give you a lot of job titles and information. So it's a really useful resource for those of you in that sector. And then we have a bunch of salary guides listed on our website. Caveat, not everything on our website is 100% up to date, so you may find some dead links. Please let us know if you do. And we have a couple students who work for us who are working on going through those. Okay. All right, informational interviewing. All right, this is basically talking to people in the fields you're exploring. And it's a very acceptable thing to ask for. It's kind of, it can be a first stage in the networking process. I call it informational networking, where you're exploring. You don't necessarily want to be completely open-ended about the fact that you're exploring. What you want to present yourself as someone who's, I'm very interested in transitioning to your field and would love to get some information from you. You want to talk to people about what they like and don't like about the work that they're doing. and how they got there. Always great to hear people's stories about how they ended up there. It can be really helpful to know that and get a sense of them, what's happening in their field, what's going on. Is it growing? Is it stagnating? Is it declining? And then you want to turn it, once you found out some about them, turn it towards advice for you. Especially if you're making a transition, you may not know what positions within that field are you're qualified for. One thing that often comes up, people say, do I have to start at square one if I make a career change? And the answer sometimes is yes, often is no. You can't always make a lateral shift to a brand new field, but you should not have to go all the way back to square one. But that's a very particular set of circumstances, so that's something we could definitely talk through once you've made a plan. And it's never too early. I'm going to say this a lot throughout the series. Never too early to get some general information about salary ranges. You've looked online. It's always helpful to talk to people in the field, in a specific place, city area that you're in, a particular company, particular field. And you're just asking salary range. They may know it, they may not know it. If you ask it diplomatically, it shouldn't cause a big problem, even though, as we'll talk about when we get to our negotiation session, people can be funny about money, including ourselves. So, okay, so lots of different ways to gather information. And now we get to our final phase, which is deciding what's next. You've looked at yourself, you've looked at the world of work, what's out there, what the reality of, right? Now you want to narrow your focus. Having thrown all the doors open and done all of this research, you want to narrow your focus to one or two paths. And you want to gain skills and experience in this new field or fields. How can you do that? You can add project or volunteer work. Try project work first and try to get paid for it. But if the only way to find out about something is by volunteering, do. But do strategic volunteering. I would, for instance, not necessarily volunteer at a place you'd really like to work for, because sometimes, again, there's a lot of variations here. Sometimes that's the only way, but other times, if you're doing the work for free, they're not necessarily going to seriously consider you as a candidate for a paid position. It really varies by organization and company. And then another key thing that you need to think about if you're going to make a shift is what training options are available. If you need, you want to gain these skills and experience, you want to be able to get them on your resume, get them on your LinkedIn profile. And in terms of degree of difficulty, from time and money to from lowest to highest, we've got skills classes where you can take, learn a specific skill. Could be online, could be in person, could be very inexpensive, could have a pretty high price tag. It really varies. There are certification programs. These are often offered by universities through their Division of Continuing Education or schools for professional studies. What I like about certification programs is you in a lot of cases, you don't have to apply to complete the entire program. You can just start, you jump in, try a class. They tend to be shorter term and less expensive, certainly, than graduate school. It doesn't mean that they're cheap. It really depends. Some of them are, some of them can be, but sometimes it's a weekend intensive. Sometimes it's a 6-week course, one Monday night a week. It really varies. A lot of them are online, but definitely take a look at those as a possibility. And then graduate school programs. In some cases, if you're looking to make a shift, you may determine that the best way in general and the best way for you is to get a new degree. And so you would take a look at that. Right. Time management becomes an issue when you're looking to make a shift. You need to think about, if you're going to go back for school or some form of training, are you going to do that part-time or full-time? Is there a way for you to manage to do it full-time? What's your financial situation? And my mantra in general with time management is you want to work with yourself, not against yourself. So you want to use a little bit of self-knowledge. Am I a morning person? Am I a night person? If I'm working full-time, how am I going to fit in this exploratory research, informational interviewing? How can I make it realistic? To me, the most important thing is, you want to you don't need to do everything at once. You need to make it, depending on your timetable for change, you want to just make it routine. Could be that you're going to sit down every day for the next 2 weeks for 20 minutes or an hour and spend some time on this. It may be that you're looking to make a change 6 months from now, a year from now, and you could do a once a week or once a month program, of going through this process step by step. Could start with a counseling session with me. It could start with a class. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but try and work with yourself, with your natural rhythms and sort of your strengths rather than going against yourself. Okay. All right. So next steps. Once you've decided on your focus, it's all about strategy. You guys get a little view of my computer. It's all about strategy. So that could mean tailoring your resume, your cover letters, your LinkedIn profile to your new focus. Okay, you've decided to make a shift. How do you show that in your resume and cover letters? How do you write about your past work history and present your past work history in a way that's going to help you transition to the new thing? You're going to have to do some networking online and in person. Career changers most often get their new opportunities through networking, not on the open job market, applying. But we'll talk about that more as we go down the road. And then when you're ready to launch your new job search, this is all about strategy. It's interesting. These are the questions that people are often most anxious about when they come see me. They want to talk about the resume right away. How do I do this? How do I do that? But if you're truly contemplating a change, this part actually is the easy part. The harder part is figuring out what's my focus, what's my new goal. Once you do that, that's what I'm here to help you with. Both one-on-one and through the rest of the series will help you. So you'll notice that a lot of these phrases are from the upcoming webinars. All right. So next week, if you're able to join us, we're looking at tailoring it. We'll be looking at resume, cover letters, and LinkedIn profiles. Then we'll be looking at networking. Then we'll be looking at job search, and then interviewing and negotiating. So plenty of things to come if you're able to join us. If not, they're all going to be archived. Okay. So some final thoughts, and then I'll take questions if you've got any. Every job search, voluntary or not, is an opportunity to stop and assess and explore what you really want to be doing. So I see a lot fewer alumni than I did, say, 4 years ago who've been laid off, but I still see a few from time to time. I saw a lovely alumna from the 80s just this week who'd been laid off due to a budget decrease at her nonprofit. And so clearly not voluntary. She would have loved to stay where she was, but even though she's not happy about it, she's taking this moment to say, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to keep doing what I'm doing? Do I want to go back to something I did earlier? Is there a whole new path out there for me? So it always is an opportunity. It does not have to take you months and months to go through this process. This can be a quick exploratory process. But you want to take that moment to ask yourself, what am I looking for? Okay. There are a lot of Barnard resources. Obviously, there's this series, which I offer both as webinars and workshops. This current series runs from today through March 2nd, Wednesdays, 6 Wednesdays. And then I rerun the same 6 topics as on-campus workshop series. I am revising it this time. I'm going to try and do, for the on-campus version, I'm going to try and do more hands-on activities. And then once I've done that live, I'm going to think about how I can do that online. It's a little trickier online to do hands-on stuff, but just less me talking and more you practicing some of the skills and some of the things that I'm suggesting. Okay, and that'll be in April and May for those of you who are around and might want to repeat some of these topics with some opportunity for hands-on discussion and practice. And then, as I've mentioned several times, the PowerPoints and webinars, they're already archived. They're versions from the last time I ran it, and my plan is to update as I go along. So by the end of the day on Thursdays, tomorrow, this one should be up. The new version should be up, and I'll try and do that each week in a timely fashion. There is also, as I've mentioned several times, individual counseling appointments available, primarily with myself. Sometimes if you can't fit into my schedule, one of the other counselors will see alumni as well. Again, you've got the in-person option, the phone, or Skype. There's my name and title in case you need to hear it again. I'm in 3 days a week. I do 10 to 6 Mondays through Thursdays, try and catch some people who can't come till the end of the day. And then on Wednesdays, I do the early 9:15 appointment to catch some of you who might want to, talk or come in before work. The best way to make an appointment is to call the number. It's the easiest way. If you email me first, it just wastes time. I'm basically just going to say, great, can't wait to see you. call 212-854-2033, because when you call the front desk, they've got my schedule in front of them. You've got your schedule in front of them. It's much easier than you and me going back and forth by email saying, how about this day? How about that day? Okay, so definitely call if you want to make an appointment. The one exception to that is if you've got a really unusual schedule and they're not able to fit you into my schedule, you can at that point email me and work with me to find a different time. I sometimes am able to sort of squeeze you in at a different time or on a day that I'm working from home, etc. Okay. So that's it. That's my spiel. Questions. I hope I gave you enough resources to get this started on your own or with someone else or with me. Let me know if you have any questions. We've got about 5 minutes left. So feel free, any comments or questions that you have and want to share with the group, get an immediate answer. Actually, let me look back. Sometimes okay. Clicking. Great. I saw that there were some differences. Hold on a second. Okay. Sorry. For whatever reason, it's hard for me to see the full question. Oh, there we go. If I access the older webinars archived, how much has the info changed? I've been laid off and want to accelerate some of the work. I don't change it a whole bunch from time to time. I tweak it. As I mentioned today, I recheck the links, make sure that they're active. Sometimes I've got some new thoughts. Today, for instance, I added the slide on using LinkedIn because I've just been talking more and more about that in my sessions recently. So there's some changes. They're not major. You certainly can get the basic concepts by looking at the whole series online over the next couple of days or weeks, whatever's at your disposal. And if you do run into, I know, for instance, that I have to make a few changes to the networking thing because there's been a few changes to LinkedIn. So if you run into inaccurate information and it's really becoming a stumbling block for you, shoot me a quick email and I'll help walk you through. But yeah, I'll be doing some update. I always update them a little bit, but not hugely. Okay. All right. And then let me go back. Okay. I apologize. This particular feature on GoToWebinar, I don't love the question feature. Huh. All right. It is apparently. Oh, now it's flipped them around. Okay, sorry. A little hard to read. Bear with me. I see that there's a few questions in there. I saw that there were some differences between the PowerPoint posted online and the one we reviewed during the session. Will you be circulating the updated PowerPoint? Yes, I will attach the PowerPoint from today to the email I send out tomorrow. In exchange, I'd love for you to evaluate the session. That would be great. And I'll also give you the link for where I'm updating both the PowerPoint and the archived session. Okay. I have a comment. Thank you. You have given me a lot to think about and great starting points. I'm looking forward to remaining webinars. Excellent. I'm looking forward to it too. Thanks. Nice. For some reason, they've now jumbled up the whole order. Okay. I do apologize if I missed your question. Feel free. It'll actually show up in my final report, so I'll try and get back to you, but also feel free to pop me an email. My address here at Barnard is cshin@barnard.edu. So it's CSHIN as in Nancy at barnard.edu, and I'll be happy to answer your question if it's a quick one. Otherwise, I'll tell you to call and make an appointment. Thank you all so much for your participation, and I hope to see some of you back here next week. And if not, good luck with your career exploration. Take care, everyone.